Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, everybody. This is Bob Gale, co-creator of Back to the Future, and you're listening to Brad Gilmore.
Doc! Okay, relax, Doc. It's me. It's Martin.
No, it can't be. Just sent you back to the future.
Yeah. Oh, I know you did send me back to the future, but I'm back. I'm back from the future.
Great Scott.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
The way I see it, if you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
Whoa, this is heavy.
All right, what is going on, all of my fellow pinheads? All my Cluvians? How art thou? How is everyone doing? It is your man, the one and only, the boat, Brad Gilmore. Hashtag Brad's opinions are true. Hashtag best of all time. Hashtag I'm on a boat. As you can probably hear just a little bit, again, I find myself under the weather due to the incredible amounts of pollen in the air here in the great state of Texas. But that's not why I'm here today. It's why I'm laying in bed, feeling less than stellar, but it's not why I'm here today. Why I am here in my bed recording this on my iPhone. I'm here to make a massive announcement. Massive announcement. The announcement is that on May the 6th, 2025, less than 2 months ahead of the 40th anniversary of Back to the Future, I am releasing a new book called Why We Love Back to the Future, 40 Years of Fandom, Flux Capacitors, and Timeless Adventures. Now, I know what you're thinking. Brad, wait a minute. We've listened to you for a long time. We know that you've written a book about Back to the Future. Is this the same book? No. Sort of, but no, it's not. It's not. It is. So it is, but it's not. Okay? Allow me to explain. Back in 2019, in June. Actually, let's go back before that. Back at the very beginning of 2015, I vividly remember sitting in one of my classes in college and realizing we were in the year 2015 and really excited about the possibilities of the future and realizing I'm going to see the very first year. I'm in the year, and I'm going to see the day that they travel to 2015 and Back to the Future. Remember, I'm born in 92, so no Back to the Future 1 or Back to the Future 2 or Back to the Future 3, time periods. I wasn't in 85, I wasn't in 55, I wasn't in 1885. So I had to only look forward to the brief amount of time they spent in 2015 in Back to the Future Part 2. So there I am, and I'm looking around trying to see if there's a podcast out there that I could listen to celebrate my fandom of Back to the Future. There was no such podcast. So I took it upon myself at the tender age of 22. Jeez, I was 22. Wow. At the tender age of 22 years of age, I decided to start this podcast. And there I started talking to Claudia Wells and Harry Waters and Jeffrey Weissman and Jason Aaron and Cassine Gaines and Kevin Pike. And then the list kept growing. And then you started to add people like Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, Crispin Glover, Bob Gale, Robert Zemeckis, Leslie Zemeckis. So many. Darlene Vogel, who have been a part of this ride, quite literally, through time with me. And I got to say, man, it was cool to start that podcast. And then we move forward. 2019, early parts, around March, April, start talking to these people over at Mango Publishing. So this is about 4 years into me doing the podcast. And they said, hey, we want to do like a Back to the Future book. We think you're the first person, the best person to do it. I said, let's do it. So in June of that year, I started writing Back from the Future, a celebration of the greatest time travel story ever told. And that is the bones of what this new book is based on. And I will say, at the time when I released the book, I felt like, okay, like I did okay at it, but I felt like I could have done more, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And I didn't really have an idea for a Back to the Future book, really. They just said, we want you to write one. So I kind of came up with what I thought was a cool idea for the book. And I guess for at the time, it was the best that I could do. But then the book came out and there were errors in it. There was misspellings. There was like a couple factual inaccuracies. I called it Lou's Diner instead of Lou's Cafe. I spelled almanac wrong at one point. There was just all these like small little things that, you know, myself and the publisher didn't really pick up in the copy edit for whatever reason, right? So when the book came out on paperback, book came out in April of 2020. Book came out in paperback in May of 2021. And I fixed a few of the errors, but I still felt like, man, you know, I could have just done better at this thing. I could have really knocked this out of the park. So this is where the Cluvians come in. Sometime in 2022, I believe it was, I interviewed Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith is the director of Whodunit, the Clue documentary. People listening on the Clue feed know who Jeff is. And Jeff and I talked about Back to the Future and Clue the movie a lot. And then we had an opportunity in May of 2024 to do Back to the Future, the podcast, live at Comic Palooza. And we were kind of excited about this prospect. And so I told Jeff, I was like, hey, man, I know you've never been to Houston. I know we never met in person. You want to come do this podcast? And me and Michael Carroll and Sean, the mayor of Nortropolis, we all did that podcast together. And it was there that I met Marty McFly himself, Michael J. Fox, and Christopher Lloyd. And I was so jazzed up about Back to the Future again. It made me look at that book and go, man, I wish I really would have put my all into that. Because I know I could have done better. So that same week, I wrote an email to the folks at Mango, and I said, hey, could I do a new edition of the Back to the Future book, Back from the Future? And with the 40th anniversary is coming up, you know, I can maybe add in some more information, juice it up a little bit, and then we can release like an ebook version of it or something like that. They came back and they're like, look, Brad, I was actually working, this is actually full disclosure, I was actually working on another book with them at the time because we did the Back from the Future, we did Bond, James Bond, literally the year after. And I was working on a book called Timeline 1989 with a friend of mine, Christian Harloff, where we were going to talk about all the movies that came out in 1989, like 25 of the top movies. Because it was a crazy year in film. Go look it up. And we had finished this book, and I read through it, and I was doing the edit on it, and I just felt that it wasn't there. It just wasn't solid. And I didn't want to do another book that I didn't feel solid about. So I went back to the folks at Mango after my Back to the Future experience and said, can we do this again? They actually gave me the green light, and they said, why don't we do it? Let's do it. Let's just put out another print version, update it, and we can call it a new edition. And I started calling it the Great Scott Edition of Back from the Future. And I wrote 2 new chapters for the book. It's Like It's Been Erased is one of the names of the chapters. And the other one is The Power of Love and Music. And we talk a lot about the musical, obviously. And in It's Like It's Been Erased, we talk about some of the cut scenes from Back to the Future Part 1. They really made that film what it is today. So I just went and I added a lot. And I had a lot of interviews with people over the podcast or the radio show or the TV segment that I do. And I wanted to add some of that context in there and really make this a great book. So I started writing it. I was pretty much getting done with it, and they were like, well, you need someone to do a foreword and or an introduction. And so I reached out to Harry Waters Jr., who played Marvin Berry, who sings Earth Angel. I'd really always loved him and the interviews that we have done, and I asked him if he'd do the foreword. He didn't hesitate. He said, absolutely. At first, he actually was like, hey, why do you want me to do it? Why wouldn't you want like Leah or Michael or Christopher Lloyd? And I said, look, all those guys or girls would be great, but you have such a unique story, and your story hasn't been amplified as much as it should have. So I thought it was a cool idea to have someone like Harry Waters do it. And so he wrote the introduction to the book. And then Saturday Night Live, cast member and writer, is still there today, Mikey Day. Mikey Day actually wrote the foreword. And there's a very interesting story about how I procured Mikey Day to write the foreword to the book. And that is in the book. He tells the story. And I really encourage you to get the book just to read that story, because it's so awesome that we were able to pull that off. So they did the foreword, and then I reached out to some people who also I've always talked Back to the Future with. And I said, look, let's get some people in here to talk about these movies and why it means so much to them. And so I got my buddy Chris Van Vliet to write a passage in the book. Jeff Smith writes a passage. Roxy Striar, Eric Tate, and Tony Ruscoe, who are both involved in this podcast, been on this podcast. We talk with them in the book. They write some passages. Then we had the man himself, Jeffrey Weissman, write a passage in the book about his experience with Back to the Future. And we call them the Letters from the Friends in Time. And in each of the existing chapters, I went and rewrote them all essentially and added a ton of new context and information. So when I was getting ready to turn the book in, Hugo, shout out to Hugo, over at Mango, he was like, look, Brad, you should think about changing the name of the book because it's so different. You shouldn't put it out under the same title because it's not the same book. And I said, well, what do you think we should call it, Hugo? And he said, why don't we call it Why We Love Back to the Future? I was like, that's a perfect title. So today is officially available for pre-order. Why We Love Back to the Future, 40 Years of Fandom, Flux Capacitors, and Timeless Adventures, written by your man Brad Gilmore, available March the 6th. Pre-order now. Pre-order it right now. Do it now. I would do it for you. And let's get this book #1 on the Amazon charts. Link is in the description. Love you all. I'll see you.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.